All right, so we are back. Another A&J
Oh,
Life
what up?
episode. I guess a little mini series that we're doing for you. It's like a back to the future, back to college for us. I guess we're
Looking back at all
out of
that.
school for just over a year now, so reflecting on I guess that entire process for us. And we're going to start at the beginning for us. So before we even made it to campus, before we started enrolling in classes and giving up our money to school, we had to decide where we were going to go. So I guess, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today, kind of that process of how we ended up as a Wisconsin Badger for Jacob and as a Missouri Tiger on my end. So, yeah, let's
Yeah,
get into it. I
it is
guess first
Jinx.
off, the main thing for me, and I guess kind of curious thing just at the start, and for both of us, maybe just due to the area that we were in, but that expectation to go to school. I guess for us, it wasn't really like something that we really second guessed. Like it kind of seemed like a foregone conclusion for us. But I don't know. How did you feel about that? Was there anything in your head of like, I don't have to go to school, or did you feel like you had to go to college?
It honestly didn't even feel like a choice. Not that I felt otherwise, but it felt like everyone you knew, everyone older than you went to college. Most like parents, not all, but like most people knew parents that went to college. And I mean, it's just like you don't want to be the outlier, you know? You don't want to be the person that sticks out and you don't want to be the person that ends up at the wrong school. The
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever it is, and I feel like there's a lot of pressure on kids these days to kind of end up out of school, and they might not. And honestly, I think it's kind of rushed to even like looking back at it now. I think it's kind of rushed to go to school right away. I feel like a
Mhm.
gap year is kind of a smart move if you have the flexibility to be able to do that. It's not a bad option, and people shouldn't be looked down upon for doing that.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that, just related to the gap year or like the type of school that you go to. I feel like a lot of people look down on like community college or like getting an
Yeah,
associate's degree or stuff like that. But going to MCC or those
good.
Montgomery
Save
Community
some money.
College or like going to any community college, yeah, it's going to save you a good amount of money. You're going to get the same type of degree. You're going to get the same functional education. Like, you're going to get
Yeah, it's
all
so different, really.
yeah, it's like all the things that matter, really. I guess maybe not the same social stuff or, kind of those other added amenities, but like the practical knowledge you're going to get out of going to a community college for cheaper. And I feel like that was looked down upon. Like if you were going to MCC or if you were going to a community college, not that it was a bad thing at all, but it was just like, not that
Yeah,
wasn't viewed as a first option. And, and I guess that's a difference even for, just our situations and our circumstances, but like for us, and I feel like the people around us, definitely, it was like the expectation was 4 year university, you know, and
yeah.
a, not even, I wouldn't say necessarily a big state school, but, just a 4 year university, like a name that you've heard.
Mhm.
I feel like it wasn't a lot of
A
like,
big name, like, that's
yeah,
kinda the better route to go, you know, not
yeah,
the better route, it's just the prefer I not even prefer, there's no right word to describe it. Just what was looked at as the right way to go, you know? It's not how it should be, but
yeah, it
it
was
is what
just how
I
it
mean,
ended up.
yeah. It,
But
it's interesting how it just affects everyone, though, like, I mean
yeah,
and I mean, there's also people that like I think another big thing too is like what you were saying about the school and like the level. A lot of athletes went to like D3 schools. Like that's not the same as going to a D1 school like what we were going to or
mhm.
other people. I mean, I think a lot of people it was probably 50-50 from our grade, but I honestly don't know the numbers. And then another big expectation was like kind of it kind of forced you to pick a route early. If it's like, are you going liberal arts school or are you going like again like a more
Big state
generic?
school, yeah.
Like you don't really get the choice there. It's an early decision they make you take. And,
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of the types of schools that you're looking at and like, yeah, just that whole, the lens through which you're viewing that process, it is determined very early. I agree with that. And I guess that kind of segues right into, that next portion. Obviously, you have your expectations about college, but you're actually deciding what school you're going to go to. What was, I guess for you, what was that process looking like from the beginning? Like, what was your, I guess, going back to what you were just saying, like, what was your initial kind of preconceptions about what types of schools that you were going to go to, and how was that influence? Like, what kind of put you towards that path?
I would say, as most of you would probably be able to tell, I'm a big sports guy, and I kind of wanted a big sports school. I wanted to be able to watch a big, fun team and be able to go to the football games every weekend, basketball games on in the winter, stuff like that. And that kind of was the biggest factor for me going into it. Kind of just I wanted to end up at a school where I can ideally end up in a sports career path. And I, I mean, I in a way I got that, I guess, from Wisconsin. But looking back at it now, I feel like there's other routes that I could have taken to end up there. But that's another story.
Hmm.
Anyways, I think it kind of started like the route started with I guess kind of just researching. Like we all got like kind of books, and like they'd have schools come in right at BCC, and then
Well,
kind of
did you
talk
get
at lunch
Did
or
you get all
something.
the like mailing and stuff? I feel like our sophomore, like after we took PSATs for the first time, I want to say, we started getting like crazy, like actual physical mail and then emails from schools. Like I feel like
Oh yeah,
that's when it
that's I guess
starts
the
really.
very initial. And I mean,
Mm,
those are the. I mean, most of them weren't as big name schools, but
mm.
like some people probably got some bigger name schools. And I mean, at the
Some
end,
some decent ones sprinkled in there. I'd be like, oh,
you'd be like, oh,
Tulane sent me a letter. Oh,
just like make you feel good, pick you up in the day. But
yeah.
yeah, definitely. That was probably the first point you kind of interact with college, and then it's like kind of is it? I think it is some kind of coming to the school, right? Or like kind of seeing, researching it if you are, but or touring schools too, because that's kind of around the same point. It's kind of I guess it's different for everybody, but I guess for me it was kind of just researching and figuring out which schools I'd want to tour because I kind of wanted to go further out and
Mm,
so obviously you have to like kind of travel for that and plan it out. And so I was kind of doing a lot more researching for that. My parents really they got this big book for that and
mm.
it was super fun. But yeah, for in terms of like kind of deciding which schools I wanted to tour at first, it was kind of through that. And then I did have I think we did have guidance counselor for it, right? A college guidance counselor?
We had a counselor. I believe it was Miss Plumley was her name, I want to say. But we
That's
didn't. We had a counselor, but like for our whole grade, so it wasn't individual. It was like a
okay.
one person doing the college counseling for like 500 kids. Like it was.
So you weren't really
It,
meeting with it was
yeah, I say like it wasn't like a super individual. Like you could develop a relationship, but it wasn't like a
oh,
super individualized thing off the bat. Not in the same way that like a college advisor would be. So that was a very different thing for us.
yeah, definitely. Do you want to talk about your beginning there, I guess, with like how you kind of chose where
Yeah,
you went for?
for me, it was all like it started with kind of the mailing stuff. It was a few schools through that like I don't know. I guess it started with the mailings. I was getting some stuff consistently from a few schools. That just kind of like opened my eyes up. I was pretty confident that I was going to go to school out of state. Like I didn't have interest in staying in the immediate DC, Maryland area. But I wasn't sure. I was like stuck between, do I want to try to go to like a state university, or do I want to try to go to like a smaller, like maybe a historically black college, or maybe like a, I don't know, just like a smaller school, like maybe something a bit more focused. I think for me, one of the differences with my search was I knew that I was going to go to school for journalism. Like I kind of from
Yeah.
the bat, I did a ton of that stuff in middle school and high school. That was, granted, my job is not as a journalist now, but I knew that that's what I wanted to go to school for. So I was looking for schools based off of that, places that had journalism schools, and then that were in locations that I wanted to be in. I think that was the other thing. I wanted to go to a new place and try something different, and I wanted it to be a campus and an area that I went to, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, like I can see myself here and I can enjoy it. It was so there were a few. I think that was my main thing. Just when I was looking at schools immediately was, where is it at? Um, then referencing that with how much it costs. And that was the other biggest thing, like relative to my testing scores and like my GPA, how much money was I going to be able to get from these schools? And then and if they had a good journalism school or not. So
Yeah.
kind of went off of those three things. I did also, I don't know if you went to them as well, but there were a few, or I guess only one that I physically went to, but they had like a Montgomery County college fair at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, I
I
do
think it
remember.
was like I don't remember if that was I want to say it was our junior year, like
Yeah,
sophomore or junior year.
it's probably
Um,
junior.
but they bussed us to the fairgrounds, and it was a ton of schools, like bigger schools even, that were out there with their representatives there, having events and stuff. It was a few, college events that I went to, a few representatives that I was in contact with from places. So I don't know. I tried to take advantage of just like going out and meeting people and meeting the admissions representatives at different college fairs. I feel like that's like an underrated thing, but schools that have shit admissions representatives, not that that's indicative of the entire school, but I feel like
It's
it
better
is,
than like
yeah, but it's like a cool school isn't going to hire annoying people to, like, I feel like that's just reflective of the community that a school has, especially when you get into these bigger state schools and like the alumni pools are so massive. Like it's cults almost. When you see
yeah.
these people, they're yelling stuff at each other in public. Like it's this whole thing. I feel like they are, you're only willing to let certain people into that community. Like people take pride in their schools, really. So I feel like
Mhm.
seeing that exuded, even if it's at, career fairs or, in emails or random community events,
Love
like
to see that. Yeah.
all of that stuff matters. Granted, I ended up, I guess my tours ended up being kind of based off of that as well. I had like a big list of schools. I think I ended up taking a total of like, I guess in terms of tours that I traveled for, I went to Philadelphia. It's not really travel, but I went to Philadelphia. I toured Drexel University up there. I went to Myrtle Beach to see Coastal Carolina. I went to Virginia to see Hampton, University of Hampton. Again, not really like travel for that. I'm trying to think if there was anything else like that I really traveled to see. Uh, and then Missouri. I flew to St. Louis and we drove to the middle of Columbia, the middle of, Columbia, Missouri, the dead center of the state to tour that campus. And that was kind of it. I had to convince my parents for that one. They like were very adamant that Missouri was not going to, well, they just didn't think that I was serious about it. But I was like, no, they have a great journalism school. And I was like, no, I'm trying to like check it out. It seems cool. Like it's SEC school. I know it's garbage, but it's SEC school. It seems fun. So ended up
Exactly.
getting out there eventually, but was based off of a plethora of things, I guess, how I made that decision.
Yeah. And going back to kind of, I guess you brought up some good points that I left out, but testing was a big part of my factor too. The ACT, I ended up going the ACT route, and that I'm not a great standardized tester, so that kind of hurt me and limited some of my choices. But that, and then again, just kind of like distance. I wanted to be further away. I didn't. I like the vibe of the Midwest. I toured, like you said. Well, you didn't say these schools, but Indiana. I toured. I
Uh,
toured UMass. I toured Delaware. I toured Miami of Ohio. I toured Wisconsin. Kind of got just a big range of like different areas. And another big factor for me, again, like what you said with journalism, I kind of was set on business, so I ended up kind of looking at schools based off how their business school, how it ranks. Not that that really ended up mattering at all, but like I ended up choosing probably the best, one of the best ranked ones of my options, which it didn't matter, but like it's just like what people. I feel like that's another almost like another expectation is like you want to get to the highest, like the best ranked school. You want the best part of the
yeah.
school. You want all these things, but like in reality, like it doesn't matter. They're all gonna have unique experiences where it's gonna be fun. You just gotta find the right people, gotta take the right classes, gotta put yourself out there. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess what sealed the deal for you? You know, you're talking about the tours that you went on. I guess what were like, the highlights or lowlights of tour experiences, and then what sealed the deal for you? What was the final, I'm gonna be a Badger, this is what I'm gonna do. What sealed it for you?
That's a great question. I think one thing that kind of ruined tours for me, this is kind of a basic thing, but just rain in general on tours. I don't know about you, but like there are some good schools that I was really excited about seeing, and rain just completely ruined the tour. Like I was very excited about Delaware. It rained a lot. Didn't end up happening. Like there's some things that I think kind of affected the whole process, not exactly in a good way, a bad way, but I ended up happy with the decision and everything. But at the end of the day, I think it kind of was just the unique experience of being in the Big Ten, kind of like what you said about the SEC, a Power Five conference, obviously, and like just a unique city. It felt like it could be a home to me in the future, kind of like what you were saying again. Like I could see it kind of had a similar vibe to Bethesda in that like it's very almost liberal, I would say. Not that I want that. It just ended up happening. And it
But it
felt
was
like
comfortable though.
yeah, exactly. I felt in a way safe. Not that other places aren't safe, but it felt like a home, and that ended up being the ultimate decision maker. And of course, I love football, and they're like ranked really high the previous years, and it's great to hear that. But of course, they never were good when I was there. So
What was like the final, like, do you remember the moment when you were like, all right, I guess, do you remember when you got accepted to
yeah,
Wisconsin? And then do you remember like when you made the final decision, like, yeah,
I'm gonna say
I'm
this.
going,
I
like this is it.
I honestly wasn't as like set on my school as I feel like other people were. I think that's a big thing too. I feel like there's this big expectation that you're gonna find the perfect school, and honestly, like I don't think I had a perfect school out there, or maybe I didn't see it, but I was still kind of deciding at the end, and I mean, I'm not to the last minute, but like few weeks
Mm,
out maybe. But I ended up deciding on Wisconsin. I think just because it at the end of the day, it kind of pushed me. Like I wanted to push myself, and of the schools I applied to, it was probably the best academically, and I just really felt that like I could learn and grow and kind of find a home there. And it's the exact moment I don't remember, like when I got accepted, but I think I was relatively happy because it was probably the hardest school. It was the hardest school I applied to. I actually got rejected a couple of times, but still,
mm.
it felt good. Like obviously any acceptance letter does, but when I eventually accepted, I was like really happy with the decision and didn't regret it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember your exact moment?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think for me, well, I guess in terms of just like the final decision making process, I took all of my tours. Like I toured, like I did all the tours I talked about before. I went to Philly, went to Virginia, South Carolina. I swear there was more. But
Yeah. I feel like
I
I'm
but
forgetting.
yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting schools.
We're
They're gonna
six,
be mad at me
seven
now.
now. Like
Yeah.
we were allowed to have some.
But it was but I did all of those and nothing clicked really. Like I kind of felt like I felt like I was in the same position as you, just like, there's some good options, like if I had to pick out of those schools, I would have felt fine and I'm sure I would have had a good time, but it would have just been like the best of the bunch. Like I don't think I would have really found a perfect fit. And again, I don't think there is necessarily like a flat out perfect fit, but when I
Yeah.
visited Missouri, again, that was like the last tour that I did, and that was the furthest school away out of all the ones I visited. So it was kind of like, all right, if we're going out here to visit, like this is
This is
meaningful.
it.
Like we're just not like I'm not just visiting here for no reason. Like this is a
It's
big
very
deal.
serious.
Yeah, and it was. I remember I went out there. It was a weird day because it was snowing that morning. It was like in February, I think. It was snowing that morning, but then it was like 60 degrees later in the day, and there were like people wearing shorts out. It was like a weird Midwest weather day, just like
They're
something
like
that
that
now
out
I'm,
there.
yeah, I was like, I'm very used to it now, but I had no idea that this. I was like, what is going on? This weirdness.
Normal out there.
Um, but I got to like tour the campus, and I love. I'm biased, but I like genuinely feel like Columbia, Missouri, is one of the best college campuses in the country. I think it is. Columbia is like a sick college town. Campus is awesome. Getting to like go there and see it in person, like I feel very lucky because I had like that moment of like, this is where I want to be. Like as soon as I won't say as soon as I got there, but like at some point during my tour, just like going on campus, I was like, yes. Or there was no point during the tour or walking around where it didn't meet expectations. Like everything that I felt like a college tour should be, or like my college experience should be, I was like, yes, like this is hitting everything that I thought college was going to be. And even though it was halfway across the country, like it made so much sense. And they ended up giving me more. I guess back to the like standardized testing stuff. I took the SAT and ACT. I like took a SAT prep course and I just scheduled both at the same time. I was like, screw it, we'll take both and we'll see what happens.
Might as well.
But I ended up getting like I think maybe 1 point, like my equivalence, I think was like 1 point higher on my ACT than it was my SAT. Like I got like my SAT equivalent was like a 27 and then I got a 28 on my ACT or something like that, like a 26, 27 or a 27, 28. And Mizzou ended up like it worked out with Mizzou. I was definitely going to be able to get into Mizzou with that. It is so if your GPA is all right, and your Mizzou has a fun little sliding scale. It's GPA testing score based. So if you're lacking in one, you just gotta have one thing that you're okay in. Mizzou will accept you 100%. It's just a matter of how much money they're going to give you. I lucked out on the money side. They gave me more money than any other school did, so it just kind of worked out for me, and I'm glad I made the choice. It was very like I know you were talking about like the not having the aha moment, but I definitely had my aha
Yeah.
moment like when I was in Columbia. And I remember when I got oh sorry, I was gonna say I remember when I got accepted too. At it was in like first period at BCC senior year. I think Mizzou was one of the first schools that accepted me. Or I don't know if they were the first, but they were one of the first ones because they turned around my application so quick. I was surprised. I was like, oh shoot, I got accepted like dumb fast. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then they ended up being the ones that stuck around. And
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's a great story. I kind of wish I had that honestly with that like that click moment, but like you guys, as you kind of said, like it kind of checked all the boxes on the tour, which is like what I was looking for. And I did have like a couple schools that did that, but I felt that Wisconsin just like met the standard, like met what I wanted, like had everything I had, big college town, like,
yeah,
and I kind of like the Midwest, and I think it was a perfect fit for me. And I mean, we both kind of ended up in really similar situations in a way, like worked out for both of us. So I mean, I'm glad that it did. And looking
yeah,
back,
it
I
was
would.
that. Yeah, no, I would definitely say that Columbia and Madison are like comparable in terms of just the types of college towns they are and the way that they're structured, the way that the schools are as well. Obviously, I can't compare Mizzou sports, I guess, to Wisconsin sports in recent history,
They're
but
there.
outside, but the general experience and everything, I think
Oh
was similar for both of us, and I think that desire to leave home as well, which I don't
yeah,
know. I feel like that was a big thing for granted there were a lot of people who went to school to like University of Maryland or to different state schools, but I feel like that was a big thing for our class, or again maybe just the people who we were around, and who we were with, but it was a lot of people who were going out of state and who were just going all over the country. I feel like even like not even people who we're friends with, but just like random people in our grade. I feel like so many people I think too went to random big state schools like all across the country, which is a really unique and cool thing. Like I feel like our class just going back to the high school thing in general, I guess to tie it all off and really where it started, like our high school experience was, and we talked about this with Matt Cohen as well, but it was just a good, I feel like, environment for us to figure all of that out and really explore things. Like it was a lot of other people who were just going out and trying stuff, a lot of other people before us who were making those leaps and going across the country to do things. So I feel like it made it easier for us to make those
It kind of
decisions and
set the
almost
precedent.
encouraged us to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you explained that perfectly. They kind of set the standard, and we followed in their footsteps. Like I don't, yeah, I don't regret it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we will be back. That's part one of three. So we
Or
got, or we won't tell you what
more
the
to
next
come.
one is. Yeah, but you can guess, you can figure it out. Guess what the next part is
What
in the
comes
comments
next?
below.
You
Yeah.
know, it's not that hard.
Guess. Yeah. Say, let us know what. I guess if you're commenting, we probably know like what school you went to, but let us know what school you went to
We want to hear it, and
and
tell us about how you chose that school.
yeah. Let
Thanks
us
for
know.
listening.
Write us paragraphs, whole stories. I
We
want
want to hear it.
detailed, intricate, tales about how you selected your school
We'll
or
read
not.
it on the next episode if
Yes.
you drop it.
Yes, we'll read them. We'll do a live read next time.
Live reads with reaction.
Yes.